Today, I will be recreating foods from iconic Christmas movies. I've done this before and it was so much fun, so here we are again. Feel free to give this video a thumbs up before we get started. That would be really nice. And let's begin.
I am starving. Huh? Max, what is this depressing bean?
This version is not only super fun and adorable, but it also comes with a Tyler, the Creator soundtrack that I highly recommend listening to, even if you have not seen the movie. This film has an abundance of food moments, from waffles to cakes to snow cones, entire holiday feasts. Actually, food, or the lack thereof, is what kicks off this story in the first place.
No. That's impossible. We can't be out of food. What? Where's my personal reserve of moose juice and goose juice? My emergency stash of hoo hash? And my secret slew of frozen hazelnut stew? I specifically bought enough food to last until January. How much emotional eating have I been doing?
And so the Grinch is forced to leave his home to venture out into the city during Christmas time. After having been confronted with too much holiday cheer, he decides to steal Christmas from the Who's. It was really hard to choose what to make from this movie, but I landed on fresh peppermint bread. This food has only about 3 seconds of screen time in the film, but it is kind of the first thing that is being introduced food-wise, so I feel like there's still some significance there. When I googled peppermint bread, something very different to what was shown in the film came up, but just judging from the food in the movie, it is some fluffy, braided, probably sweet, partially colored bread that's covered in powdered sugar and supposedly tastes of peppermint. Combine all the wet ingredients in a large mixing bowl. That's hot boiling water, agave or maple syrup, cold non-dairy milk, 10 or so drops of peppermint aroma, maybe also some vanilla aroma if you want. Give this a quick mix and sprinkle over some dry active yeast. Allow this to sit in a warm place for 5 to 10 minutes or until it starts to become frothy. I like to put this next to the heater or inside the oven with the lights turned on only. Side note, if your mixture after about 5 to 10 minutes still looks like this, then your yeast is most likely dead and you have to do a new batch. Use these 5 to 10 minutes to mix together all the dry ingredients in a large mixing bowl, and also melt down the vegan butter inside a small to medium saucepan. As a last minute step, I decided to add some of this waffle spice that I found in my pantry, because you know, waffles, they do have their moment in the movie. Then bring everything together, so the yeast mixture, the butter, and the flour mix. Knead the dough with your hands for about 5 minutes. And then allow this to rest once again someplace warm for about an hour or so. Now divide the risen dough into 3 equally sized pieces. Feel free to weigh them, but you also don't have to do that. Now, one of these we're going to color with red food coloring. This can get quite messy, and so to protect my hands, I ended up using some gloves. Now roll each third into a long and thick strand. Now, how to braid? You pinch together the top first and then braid it, you know, always adding one strand to the middle. It's basically how you would braid hair. Bake this in a preheated oven at 180 degrees Celsius for around 35 minutes or until baked through fully. Feel free to finish this off with some powdered sugar, and then of course you have to serve this with some French press coffee. I actually happen to have some peppermint flavored coffee beans in my kitchen. Not sponsored, although I would love to be. I'm surprised he doesn't drink his coffee black, although the sad face latte art is also on brand. Not that my milk foam machine works in any way, shape, or form, but I'm not sure you can do latte art with French press coffee, but correct me if I'm wrong. The Grinch also has a cameo in this next movie, although here it's the original adaptation from 1966 that Kevin watches in a limousine, all whilst eating a cheese pizza and drinking canned Coke out of a fancy glass. I love how the movie transitions from the Grinch's face to the concierge, who's kind of a villain character in this film, who looks so much like Jimmy Fallon, by the way. I thought it was him. Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, is a movie I had never seen as a kid, and so it sadly didn't have that layer of nostalgia that the first movie has for me. It's still a fun watch, although I wasn't quite expecting as many uncomfortable jokes in this one, but then again, it is the early 90s, so that does check out, unfortunately. That being said, there's quite a lot of fun food scenes in this film. For example, we've got Kevin once again enjoying a huge ice cream sundae. There's candy and cookies that he finds in the hotel room. And of course, the pizza scene. Arguably the most iconic food moment in this film. If you have never made pizza before, it's actually a lot less intimidating than you might think. Take a medium bowl, add the hot water, plus the sugar. Give that a quick mix and allow the sugar to dissolve for just a moment. Now add in the cold water and sprinkle over the dry active yeast. Set this aside someplace warm for 5 to 10 minutes. Meanwhile, inside a large mixing bowl, combine all the dry ingredients. That's flour, vital wheat gluten, which you can just substitute with extra flour, but it is a nice addition to any bread type dough, and also some salt. Quickly mix. Pour the wet into the dry and combine everything until it roughly comes together. Work in the olive oil and knead the dough for a good 5 to 10 minutes. Here you have to feel out the dough a little bit. It might be a bit on the stickier side, especially at the beginning, and so it helps to have lightly oiled hands while kneading the dough or sprinkling over some more flour. Once you're done with the kneading, lightly oil the bowl that you just used and place the dough inside. Cover it up and let it sit somewhere warm for about an hour. This should yield 2 pizzas. Give one of the dough halves another quick knead. Yeah, you kind of stretch and pull the dough into shape using your hands to get more of a rustic homemade pizza look. I decided to bake my pizza on top of a reusable baking mat, which worked surprisingly well. Spread the tomato sauce on top. Add some vegan pizza cheese. Allow your pizza to bake for 10 to 13 minutes. Now, to make it look just like in the movie, I decided to serve this in an old pizza carton alongside a glass of Coca-Cola. It's really good. So this next movie definitely falls into the category of Christmas movies that aren't really Christmas movies. I remember seeing it in theaters when it came out and then owning it on DVD. I just rewatched it for the first time, and it's just so interesting to me how a film that I've seen a million times as a kid can hit so different as an adult. It made me go down all these different rabbit holes on how Willy Wonka is the actual villain of this story and not the bratty spoiled children, and how it's not just about criticizing bad parenting, everything, but really more so criticizing the world of capitalism and overconsumption and exploitation of other countries and such. Really fun stuff. Food is of course a huge theme in this movie. Right at the beginning, we meet Charlie and his family. They live off cabbage soup, which I considered recreating for a moment, but then decided against. Later on in the factory, we are then surrounded by chocolate and candy. So I thought it would only make sense for me to try and recreate my own chocolate candy, which is inspired by different flavors that the characters encounter along the way. This is the salted Tony's bittersweet chocolate. Not sponsored, but it is amazing. Melt the chocolate chunks. There's a bunch of different ways one could do that. You can use a water bath, you can use the microwave, or you use the oven. Make sure that the oven is at around 150 degrees Celsius. Mine was still hot from baking. I turned my remaining pizza dough, half from the Kevin recipe, into pizza bread, which turned out really good, by the way. Anyway, give the chocolate chunks about 3 to 5 minutes in the oven. Make sure that the container that you put the chocolate in is heat proof, and then remove it and allow it to sit for another 5-ish minutes or until fully melted. I also added a bit of vegan butter, just to make the candy taste extra rich. And then it was time to add the additional flavors. I've got some dried blueberries here, some walnuts, and these caramel flavor drops. And so I'm first cutting up the nuts and the berries, just roughly, and only adding about a tablespoon of each to my chocolate. I made a really small batch, but you can always scale it up. These silicone baking molds are for making chocolate candy specifically, but you can also use a silicone ice cube tray if you happen to have one of those. Put this into the freezer for about 10 minutes or into the fridge for at least an hour. I continued my candy making session the following day. We still need to melt some additional chocolate, which is going to act as glue to seal 2 of the candy halves together. I then went ahead and poured the melted chocolate into a little plastic piping bag, which is a step that you don't need to take. It's enough to just use a little spoon and add a drop of chocolate to the center of one of the candy halves and then smush those 2 together. Wrap the chocolate balls in some aluminum foil or some special candy wrappers if you want to go all out and maybe give these away. You can of course also customize the flavors to your liking. You don't have to do the blueberry walnut caramel combo. Maybe add some cookie chunks in there or some other flavor drops like peppermint, vanilla. Oh, especially if you're gifting these away, you could customize the flavor depending on who is going to be receiving the candy. A lot of you guys asked me to recreate something from The Holiday, or if you would translate the German title, it's Love Doesn't Need a Vacation. It's a wonderfully cheesy rom-com where we follow 2 couples, one in LA and the other one in the UK.
Are you by any chance at all into hot chocolate?
Totally into it.
At some point, we see both couples enjoy some form of a chocolatey drink. For Cameron Diaz and Jude Law, it's a classic hot chocolate with marshmallows. And for Kate Winslet and Jack Black, it's this chocolate milkshake or iced hot chocolate. They don't exactly tell you what's in it. We only find out that it's apparently the best drink in LA. So yeah, I decided to recreate both couples' drinks. Let's start with the hot one. To a small to medium-sized saucepan, add all the ingredients except for the marshmallows. That's non-dairy milk, unsweetened cacao powder, salt, vanilla, sugar, and some dark chocolate chips. Bring the heat to medium-high and whisk away until this mixture is close to boiling point and the chocolate is fully melted.
Okay. This is really good. It's very sweet. And we're gonna make it even sweeter by adding exactly 5 marshmallows. I got these from the vegan supermarket that we have here in Berlin.
I don't make hot chocolate very often for myself. but I should.
I don't know if I want to continue drinking it or if I want to recycle it for this next recipe.
I waited for the rest of my hot chocolate to cool down just a little bit so it wouldn't melt all the ice immediately. But yeah.
Oh, and it started snowing.
This last and final movie scared me so much as a child. I think it's the style of animation that just did not sit right with me. The fact that they almost look human, that's because they used motion capture suits to create the entirety of this movie. Tom Hanks playing almost all of the characters, even the little main boy, who was also in parts played by Josh Hutcherson. The most memorable food or drink scene in this, I would say, is the hot chocolate scene. So I made hot chocolate again, but with a little twist, since in the movie someone mentions adding chili pepper instead of sugar, and that's apparently how it got the name. You know, hot equals spicy. Not sure if that is factual, but it's what the kid says. I also recently bought this kettle that reminds me very much of the ones that they use in the movie. This would have been so good had I added simply just a pinch of chili. If your favorite Christmas movie was not on this list, then first of all, let me know in the comments what that movie is. And second of all, there is a good chance that I might have covered it in my previous Christmas movie food video. I will have said video linked up here and down below. Apart from that, thank you so much for watching and for being here. This video was such a joy to make, and I hope you liked it. And yeah, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my cookbook if you need a good Christmas gift. And that is enough self-promotion for today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!